The Kings finally, for the first time in what feels like forever, have beat the New Orleans Pelicans. And they're back to 500, and they're on a 3-game win streak. So that feels good. Getting back to 500, we took care of business in this 3-game stretch against bad opposition and righted the ship a little bit. And with the last 2 games against bad opposition, the Kings absolutely blew them out. Just 40-point wins, whatever. And so coming into this game, I didn't necessarily expect like, oh, the Kings are just gonna blow them out again, because this Pelicans team has talent, especially in the starting lineup. They don't have a lot of depth with the injuries that they have. Obviously, no Zion or Brandon Ingram, Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado, probably someone else as well. So obviously, still a game the Kings should win, but that doesn't mean you can just take it for granted, especially when you're going up. CJ never misses against the Kings. McCollum, and they still got DeJounte. They still got Herb and Trey Murphy, right? So they still got solid players. Brandon Boston's been good this year. And so sometimes you have to grit out a win, especially when you're not shooting well. The Kings shot super well the last 2 games and didn't shoot well in this game. So they had to grit a win out, and that's great. And so, kind of up to a point in the fourth quarter, with like a few minutes left, I was feeling really good about how it was not a good first half, but the Kings were able to stay in it. And then they come out, have a great offensive third quarter. And then with the bench units, without Sabonis, without DeMar, Fox keeps us afloat. And Keegan had a nice drive. Herder had a nice drive for buckets. And it's like, okay, we maintained a lead with those guys. And then we bring in the closing unit to close this game out. And, I always thought we were going to kind of have to close this game with offense, which we did because, the Pelicans and CJ McCollum were just hitting insane shots. Not saying the Kings defense couldn't have been better, but there were some pretty tough shots being hit. But I think what you saw in this game was the same thing that's plagued the Kings the whole season, which is just absolutely horrendous clutch time offense. But we'll get to the clutch. We can start at the beginning of this game, where the Kings started out slow on the first few possessions. I don't think they came out with the right mindset, settled a little bit for some isolations and some, tougher long range shots until the Pelicans got out to, I think, a 7-2 lead. And then the Kings just flipped a switch, just got into the paint on every possession. They really found success in the Malik Monk, Domantas Sabonis pick and roll, because this Pelicans team weakness is at center, starting Yves Missi, a rookie, and then you have Daniel Tice coming off the bench. Sabonis could absolutely dominate that, and he did with a 32-20 game. So they found so much success in that Malik Monk, Domantas Sabonis pick and roll. And not only that, you had DeMar finding Sabonis at times. You had Fox finding Sabonis at times. So they were finding so many different ways within the offense to find Sabonis inside. And I liked how they did it without posting Sabonis up, because I think posting Sabonis up is kind of how you disrupt an offense, by trying so hard to take advantage of a mismatch when that's not the way to do it. And the way to do it is get their defenders into space so that Sabonis can get behind them or get running at them. And they did such a good job of that. And they went on a 14-0 run. The ball, I thought, was just like whipping around the court. Such great ball movement. And obviously, in a 14-0 run, you have to get stops. The Pelicans, they were just jacking up a lot of threes, some of them tougher threes. But I thought Fox was up to the task, whether he was guarding CJ or DeJounte. Like, I think he was up for this game defensively, which was nice to see. And the Kings, as a whole, were doing a pretty good job defensively. And really, the Pelicans' only offense was just Trey Murphy making some tough shots. But then the bench came in, and the bench was not good in this game. When the bench comes in, usually that's when you need the 3-point shooting to pick up a little bit. You need Keon Elson, Kevin Herter to be able to come and hit some threes. You need other guys to hit some threes. And that didn't happen off the bench. We got 9 points from the bench, 2 from Keon, 7 for Herter. Herter went 2 for 10 from the field. And obviously, when the bench comes in, it's not like they do a platoon swap or anything. But once we put Keon and Herter in, the offense really slowed down. But it wasn't just that the offense slowed down, because that can kind of be expected at times, once you go away from our starting lineup. sure the offense could slow down, but it was also the defense that just started to let the Pelicans get to the rim too easily. Keegan was having such a rough game, and it was on both ends of the court. We needed him to be good on at least one end of the court, and early in this game he was awful, getting blown by. And then I think once he started getting blown by, he started to try to use his hands defensively instead of leading with his chest, and that got him in foul trouble. He was also missing shots. He missed multiple easy ones inside. Like, he just wasn't strong with the ball inside, catching in good positions but not going up strong. He was just playing a weak game of basketball, and I think that's the biggest improvement that he needs to make, and it's why Mike Brown has said that he's okay with Keegan getting like two or three offensive fouls per game, just because it means Keegan's going hard to the rim. And like Keegan, he was wide open under the rim. He could just dunk the ball, and he just hesitates for a little bit and then puts up a weak layup that misses. And I was just like, what is happening right now? He was just so bad on both ends. And then on the other side, you have Trey Murphy absolutely on fire from three. And that's what got the Pelicans back in this game. If Keegan could just convert some of those early in this game or play better defense, we probably could have kept that lead a little bit, but that's not what happened. And so we still had the lead going into the second quarter. So it was okay. But in the second quarter, he also was weak. Or I think the start of the second quarter was when he didn't dunk the ball. And then he also didn't go up inside with like 4 seconds on the shot clock. And the Pelicans were capitalizing in transition the other way, because when Keegan's getting all the way into the paint and he's not converting them, that's going to lead to runouts the other way. But then it felt a little bit better because he came back down. He hit a three. He got 2 offensive rebounds, like tap out rebounds. He had 6 total offensive rebounds in this game. So it definitely felt a little better after his really rough start. The rebounding battle was interesting in this one, because it was absolutely a game where the Kings needed their guards to rebound. And I don't think they did a great job of that, especially early. I mean, there's one play that stands out: Alex Len boxing out, and Kevin Huerter just takes off up the court instead of grabbing the rebound, and Alex Len kept trying to box out, waiting for someone to go grab the rebound. No one did, so the Pelicans get it. And I thought there were just multiple other opportunities where the guards were kind of flat-footed and weren't going up for those rebounds, like I said, especially in the first half of this game. But the Kings were doing the same thing to the Pelicans. They were capitalizing on the offensive glass. It ended up 18 offensive rebounds for the Kings, 10 for the Pelicans. Both teams had 33 defensive rebounds. The second quarter was not fun. I mean, the whole first half really was not fun, other than that 14-0 run, because the only offense the Kings could really get was Sabonis in the pick and roll. The shooting was awful, but I also don't think the type of shots they were getting were necessarily the ones that they want to get. And so that, combined with maybe some lapses, rebounding the ball defensively, were the reason that the Kings got down in this game. And kind of the reason that they stayed close at halftime was because they got to the free throw line. DeMar, he started something like 0-5. I know he was at least 0-5 to start this game, but he was getting to the free throw line, and so was Sabonis. Sabonis was 9 for 9 from the free throw line. DeMar was 10 for 11. King shot 27 of 29 overall. So when you're going to shoot 10 for 34 from 3, you at least got to make your free throws, and they got 29 of them, and they made them. So that was key to keeping them in this game at halftime, because it was just such an ugly first half. And it kind of reminded me of the Trailblazers game super early in this season, where the Kings offense just was kind of not getting much against a long Trailblazers defense. And it felt similar in this one. And DeMar was the guy to get to the free throw line and really keep the Kings attached, exactly the same in this one. And overall, the whole game kind of felt slow and lethargic. Maybe not because it actually was, but because there was like just no energy in the arena at all. It's kind of sad. But speaking of slow and lethargic, that is exactly how the Kings started the third quarter. The start of the third quarter was so disappointing, because the Kings, they got a spray three. I think Fox drove, kicked it out to Keegan in the corner. Keegan missed. And then the second 3-point attempt was not good. It was just like Monk coming around. Not exactly the three you want, quick, early shot clock type of three. And so, obviously that's not great, but it was the defensive end where they just let in two wide open layups. That was the disappointing part. And Mike Brown called the quick timeout, which I liked. And from there, it was just the DeRozan show. He hit those two threes, then an and one, then another three, then a long two. It started with those two corner threes. I mean, he was just hitting from everywhere. And that was just the life that this team needed. He was just massive in that third quarter to actually get our offense going because Fox just didn't have it. He went 7 for 20. I remember the days when Fox would absolutely go off against the Pelicans every single time. And then this dude named Herbert showed up on the Pelicans, and that just doesn't happen anymore. So that's sad. And so we needed other guys to step up other than Sabonis, and DeMar did. It was him hitting those 3 threes plus a long two plus an and one, 14 quick points, and then you have Sabonis hitting a three. So all those struggles in the first half, I think we combined for 4 3-pointers in the first half, and then you have DeRozan hitting 3 and Sabonis hitting 1 to start the second half. So I guess someone's got to make them. So your 2 3-point snipers, DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis, were the ones to do it. It was just the Sabonis and DeMar show in that third quarter, dominating inside out. Both of them, like I said, hitting outside shots, getting inside, getting to the free throw line. The one thing the Kings didn't do well was convert in transition. Watching this Kings team in transition is just, it sucks. I hate it so much. There was only one play where the Kings really converted in transition, which was Monk going like behind the back or something crazy, which I was just like, that's a wild thing to do when you've already messed up multiple transition opportunities. But there were some chaotic sequences that the Kings just weren't able to capitalize on. And so they scored 38 points in the quarter. Could have been even more. But I was really worried once Monk, DeRozan, and Sabonis went to the bench. I mean, I'm always worried when those three go to the bench because Fox wasn't having a good game, like I said. But I do think the Kings' defense was better in this quarter. I thought they were better running them off the line, so they could kind of live off that a little bit. Keon came in, was very good defensively. Even DeMar, when he was in, I thought was playing the passing lanes very well. And so the Kings were kind of able to survive off getting stops, forcing turnovers on the Pelicans' drives. They just forced a lot of passes to the corners that they either picked off or there was no Pelican there. So they would just go out of bounds. They forced a ton of turnovers with that bench unit in from that point in the third quarter to whenever it was in the fourth quarter when the guys came back in. But the offense didn't start out great in that third quarter. It was just Fox isolating, and that's never a great sign. The Kings were able to kind of survive off some offensive rebounds. Keon got a couple, I think, plus got fouled inside, trying to put one back in. But what was really interesting was the backup big situation because we went with Alex Len a little bit in the first half. Then we went with Isaac Jones a little bit in the first half. In the second half, we come out and we're running Orlando Robinson. And I didn't think Alex Len was bad in the first half, but he had such a short time. Isaac Jones was not great. Then Orlando Robinson comes in, and I really don't like, we've done this multiple times, how we're just kind of like throwing 3 different backup centers into the game at different times. I would like to just commit to one at least for a full half, and if they're really not performing, then yeah, you can go with another one. But I don't like rotating between these 3, just no one getting extended run. But I think Orlando Robinson came in and he was really bad defensively, got turned around multiple times, and the Pelicans were just able to get to the rim. And I also just didn't like the offense that the Kings were running because I just think you need the ball in Fox's hands more, not in isolation, but just run more pick and roll because they have him coming off ball screens so much. But the Pelicans, they just didn't respect anyone else in that unit to make a play. And so much attention was on Fox. He's never getting open. I think you have to get the ball in his hands and then set screens for him. But the one thing I will say is Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, back-to-back plays towards the end of the third quarter. They made plays catching the ball in the perimeter and driving to the rim. And both of them scored. Like, that is exactly what we need those guys doing. But we just need to see that way more from both of them. They need to be more consistent because, or else it's too much on Fox's shoulders from a ball handling perspective. Like, someone else needs to be able to make a play off of the dribble when you're running just one ball handler in the unit. But Fox did have some great moments where he finally got it going for like 6 straight points, and kept us with an 8 point lead, which we will absolutely take going into that fourth quarter. Once the fourth quarter started, we went back to Alex Len, which made sense to me just because Orlando just didn't look like he knew what was going on defensively. And so you're going with the guy you trust more. I would have liked to see a little more Isaac Jones. Like, I don't think he was great in his 5 minutes, but I feel like you could try to give him more run. I feel like we went away from him so quickly, and I feel like we have been going away from him quickly lately. But look, Alex Len was fine. Like, he did his job. He did what he needed to do. But to start that fourth quarter, another transition opportunity where the Kings had a 2-on-1 against CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum, that dude is like 6'2", max. And it's Keon Ellis and Kevin Huerter. And they don't convert because, CJ fouled Keon on the pass. But it was just so disappointing because the Kings failed to capitalize on so many transition opportunities like that. And so they failed on that. Then on that same possession, got 2 offensive rebounds and still missed every shot. So that's just rough. They got some open looks off those offensive rebounds, weren't able to knock them down. And so those types of missed opportunities, when you're already in a lineup that isn't great offensively, those hurt a lot. And CJ McCollum came right down, hit a pull-up 3. Luckily, Keegan woke up a little bit. He woke up in the second half. He was making some plays. He woke up, he hit a 3, ended up going 3 for 7 from 3. And he made some more plays in the fourth quarter as well. He hit another 3 later. He had a nice drive and finish. So a lot more encouraging from Keegan in the fourth quarter and towards the end of the third quarter than at the beginning of this game. And Fox did start to get downhill more, which was nice to see with that unit. And then the Kings had a 4-on-2 that Fox just passed to no one. He had Huerter streaking down in the lane, and then he had Keon wide open in the corner for 3, and he just throws it to no one. These fast break advantage situations that the Kings failed to convert will be the death of me. They were getting those steals, they were forcing those turnovers, and they just could not convert in transition. And yet somehow that bench unit still maintained a lead. Then once subs happened in the fourth quarter, for some reason Colby Jones was coming into the game. They played him a little bit earlier in the game. He didn't do much. I don't understand putting him in with 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. We got away with it. Look, he was fine. He didn't mess up, right? He had 1 foul on ball that was non-shooting. But I get that you're searching for someone off the bench because the only guys that you can kind of trust off the bench are Kevin Huerter and Keon Ellis. So I get you're searching, but man, putting Colby in there was terrifying. I think with Colby, it's just like he doesn't really add anything offensively other than sometimes getting an offensive rebound, which he doesn't even do that much because of his size. And then he doesn't add enough defensively to like compensate for that. But like I said, I mean, they got away with it and they still had a lead by the time Fox came back in. And so, I was feeling good. We have a lead. We have a good lead. We have everyone back in the game who we need to be back in the game. And then another possession where the Kings have a transition opportunity and it's late. And so they pull it back out. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't the greatest opportunity. So like, okay, you're gonna, like, Mark Jones even started to say it. He's like, Kings pull it out. They can be deliberate here. As he said, deliberate, Monk just pulls the craziest long 3. And the Kings have done that multiple times late in games where they will not go to the rim in transition, pull it back out to kill time, only for, like, obviously the whole team is not on the same page because then one pass later, someone's chucking a bad 3. And so it's not like Monk was open. It was a very deep three. It's not a good shot. It's also not the worst shot, but it's just that not being on the same page. You could have used an advantage situation in transition, and instead you waste maybe 2 more seconds and pull a three. And so it's just like, if you're going to pull it out, the whole team needs to commit to then being deliberate, like Mark Jones started to say before Malik pulled that three, and running a play. And then what happens off of that? CJ comes up, hits like 2 straight pull up threes, and he just couldn't miss. And he was making tough shot after tough shot. DeJounte also made a tough shot. And I kind of, coming into that final stretch, I was like, hopefully we win this game with our offense. Not to say we couldn't win it with our defense, but I was just hoping we didn't have to rely on that. And we saw exactly why, because the Pelicans, they made tough shots. Like there was one play where Monk doesn't get around the screen, they leave CJ open for three. Like that was awful, right? Everything else, there were some very tough shots, but it shouldn't have mattered. And to be fair, it didn't. They still won, but the offense was just so bad. They scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. The clutch time offense has been a problem for this team. When you have De'Aaron Fox and DeMar DeRozan. Now, I do think De'Aaron Fox is a little overhyped when it comes to clutch time offense because he won Clutch Player of the Year. He hasn't been efficient since then. And the Kings' clutch time offense has been, let's go away from everything that has been successful. And so the amount of times that Fox was on the ball, they ran a play for DeRozan, Fox just throws it away. Okay, that's just on Fox making a bad play. But then they get some ball movement going. And Sabonis finds himself inside with 4 seconds on the shot clock. He needs to go up with that because he wasn't getting involved in the offense. He has 32 points and he wasn't involved in the offense in the clutch like he normally isn't, and that's kind of the problem. So he needed to be a little selfish there and take that little hook shot. He didn't. He passes it out to Fox, which not even necessarily a bad play because Fox is open from three. He has to take that three. Instead, what does he do? He, hesitates, travels, another turnover. Then, thankfully, Keegan hit a floater. Keegan was huge late in keeping this lead. But then, while CJ McCollum is scoring every time down, the Kings are just, they looked lost. It's like either they were going to a Fox isolation, which is just a bad idea. Even in games where Fox is super hot. I don't love the idea of Fox isolating because he's not that type of player. He's way better coming around in the pick and roll, Sabonis rolling to the rim. Because that's the thing. You have Domantas Sabonis. He has 32 points and 20 rebounds. The Pelicans don't have a good center. And you're letting them off the hook. It blew my mind watching the offense late because they're just isolating Fox or they're isolating DeRozan way out on the perimeter when your entire offense has been centered around Malik Monk in the pick and roll with Domantas Sabonis. That's the thing that worked the entire time. And it's like, okay, if you're not going to go to Malik Monk because he's 2 for 11 and he's had some bad turnovers, only 2, then fine. Give it to Fox, give it to DeMar. I don't care who has the ball, but just take a Sabonis screen because then even when Sabonis would come up to set a screen, whoever the Kings ball handler was like panicked and they would go before he really set it and they'd be running away from it. And then Sabonis would try to rescreen and it would be a mess on the perimeter for like a good 10 seconds of nothing happening. It's so hard to watch. Just completely going away from everything that's working. It leads to turnovers. Fox is not an isolation player. DeMar wasn't even shooting well. I get he was shooting very well in the second half. But you have to get it to him in better spots. And you have Sabonis with 32 points and you don't even try to involve him. I hate it so much. It has to change because this is just not going to fly against better teams. And we've seen that. The Kings have lost so many close games this season down the stretch to better teams or to worse teams. Because if the Pelicans were anywhere closer, or if Keegan doesn't hit some clutch shots, then we lose this game because the clutch offense is so bad. Thankfully, you have Keegan staying in front of DeJounte. They didn't give it to CJ. Very happy about that. Keegan plays great defense, stays in front. Malik, risky play, but he got away with it with that strip. And this was by far Malik's best defensive game of the season. He was so good. I've been so critical of him because he's been awful defensively this season. Way worse than I think even before. This game, he was great. He was staying in front of his man. He was, for the most part, not getting caught off ball. He got caught on one screen, and it's kind of on the rest of the Kings defense also to help him out there, but to leave CJ open late. So I'd say it's like that play, and then the weak and one he gave up to Misi were like his two bad defensive plays. Other than that, I thought he was really good defensively because he was getting matched up on CJ and DeJounte multiple times throughout this game, and he held his ground. Looking at some individual performances, I mean, we can start with Malik. He went 2 for 11 from the field. He went 1 for 5 from 3. 5 points. That doesn't seem like a very good game, but I do think Malik had a pretty good game. I hated that 3-point shot in the fourth quarter. Other than that, like 9 assists. He had a steal. He had a block. He was competing defensively. He was running the pick and roll so well. A couple times got caught up in the air for turnovers, but other than that, he was the only offense that was kind of working in the first half with Sabonis there. And so despite not scoring a lot, I actually thought it was a pretty good game from Malik. Fox just couldn't get anything to go. 18 points, 7 for 20 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3. Didn't even hate his shot selection. Like, there were just some floaters inside he was missing. He was getting inside at times and was missing. He had the clutch moments to keep the lead with that bench group. So that was great. But then, like I said, just late in the game, Kings as a whole got to be able to figure out how to run some better offense. He's obviously a big part of that because he's on the ball so much. Then you have Sabonis, 32 points, 20 rebounds, 11 for 15 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, 9 for 9 from the free throw line. His free throws look so good. It's really nice because the past few seasons having both Sabonis and Fox be our guys shooting all these free throws and neither of them being very good. Now it's like Sabonis goes to the line and I'm so confident in him knocking them down. Fox still hasn't quite gotten there. Don't know if he ever will, but it's nice that Sabonis has. And obviously now that we have DeMar, it's a lot better from the free throw line. And he dominated, rolling to the rim, cleaning up on the offensive glass with 6 offensive rebounds, doing his best to prevent the Pelicans from getting any offensive rebounds. And just no one could stop him inside. And he didn't do it through posting up or anything like that, because that's just, I don't think that would have gone well. And when he did post up, the Pelicans sent a double right away. I just think that's the wrong decision on their part. I've watched Sabonis enough. I think if you leave him in that post and make him take a few more dribbles inside and then send numbers at him, that's when you're really gonna hurt him. But they were sending numbers early, which meant he could get the ball out and make the right decision from there. DeMar had a very poor shooting first half, but he got to the free throw line, and that's why his points, no matter how many field goals he's making, his points are always going to be ticking up because he's going to get to the free throw line. Made a lot of people bite on his pump fake this game. And then was the spark we needed in that third quarter to get us going offensively. He also played the passing lanes really well, got 4 steals, so a big 29-point night for him. And then Keegan, who just started out this game so poorly and ended up with one of his highest scoring games in quite a while with 18 points, 7 for 14 from the field, 3 for 7. The second half of this game was so much better for Keegan. 1, just knocking down his shots. 2, just making better plays inside, going to his floater, making plays off the dribble, and then also just getting burned less off the dribble. He got burned a lot off the dribble to start this game. But he was getting on the offensive glass, 9 rebounds, 6 of them offensive. The Kings had so many tap-out rebounds in this game just because of the lack of size that the Pelicans have. Off the bench, Herter, 2 for 10, 1 for 8 from 3. Not great, 7 points. Did have 3 steals. But yeah, I mean, this is why I said we need to see him string more games together, shooting-wise, because I don't even remember most of his misses. When I looked at this and I was like, 1 for 8. he took that many threes. I don't remember him taking that many threes. It didn't feel like it. He played 28 minutes, which is a lot for him coming off the bench because Keegan got into foul trouble. But I think with Kevin, it's kind of like he was fine at everything else when it came to things outside of 3-point shooting. So for him, it kind of is about us looking at him over a longer stretch of time. And so he's had some games where he shot well. This game he didn't. And so we're just going to keep an eye on that and keep looking at a larger sample size to see if he can kind of start finding his rhythm again. Because obviously this game he didn't. But we'll see if he can find consistency over a longer span of time. Keon, loved his energy when he came in, making plays, rebounding, steals, deflections, all that. 0 for 3 from 3. Thought he could have been more aggressive offensively. Feel like I kind of say that every game, but it's just the truth. But defensively and on the glass, offensively, provided a spark in his 20 minutes. And then you had Colby for 5 minutes, who I kind of talked about. Just didn't do much. I think with Colby, like I said, he doesn't do much offensively, and his defense isn't enough, in my opinion. And because other teams are still going to target him because of his slow foot speed on the defensive end. Like, I don't have confidence for him to stay in front of guys. I think he can be a good off-ball defender, a good rebounder, and get his hands in the passing lanes. I'm just not sure that's really what the Kings need right now. And then the backup center spot. I mean, I do think what this is showing you, where you have Alex Len 6 minutes, Orlando Robinson 3 minutes, and Isaac Jones 5 minutes. I think that what that's showing you is the Kings need a better backup big. I mean, I do think that Isaac Jones should get a little more extended run. But also, the Kings absolutely need a better backup big because they got 2 young guys, and then they have Alex Len, who we kind of know what he's going to provide. And he, didn't make the mistakes that Orlando Robinson provided, but he also isn't going to provide the kind of ceiling that Orlando Robinson provides when he comes in. I think overall from this game, it's great. You get the win streak. You finally beat the Pelicans. You took care of business in these 3 straight games. You've won 4 out of your last 5. You're kind of turning things around, but I'm still not confident because I just need to see better results in clutch time offense. Because you're not going to blow teams out by 40 every game like you did against Utah or blow out San Antonio. You have to be able to execute better late in games. You don't expect the Kings to blow out every bad team. And so that's why just getting this win is fine. But it's just the way that fourth quarter ended left such a sour taste in my mouth. It would have been a lot worse had they lost. Don't get me wrong. But it definitely left a sour taste in my mouth. And really, it's just because that's what we've seen all season long, apart from the Suns game. This was the Kings' first game against the Pelicans this season, obviously. The next 3 games, February 8th, 12th, and 13th. I hate NBA scheduling so much. Why? Why have we already played the Timberwolves 3 times? Why are we playing the Pelicans 3 times within 6 days? I hate NBA scheduling. But looking forward, the Kings now have a bunch of home games. They're coming home for, 9 of their next 10? 8 of their next 9. 8 of their next 9. 9 of their next 11. The Kings, I think they still have a losing record at home, right? Let me see. Yep, 6-7 at home. They're better on the road than at home. You just have to take advantage here. You have Denver and the Lakers twice. So those are teams that you're competing with. They're also extremely winnable games at home. Those are teams you're competing with. This is not OKC or anything. These are very beatable teams. The Denver game isn't until Monday, the 16th. So another long break here, which I hate. That's the one thing I really dislike about the NBA Cup is the way that it works with scheduling, where early in the season you're playing a bunch of games in a short span. Later in the season you're playing a bunch of games in a short span. Just because we have 3 games in a week and a half here or 2 weeks, I hate that. The Nuggets, they got a lot of guys on the injury report, so I don't know who's gonna play. But really, no matter what, it's going to be about how much can you dominate the non-Jokic minutes, because it just we're probably not going to win the Jokic minutes. That's the way it is. That's how good he is. Jokic's numbers this season are insane. 32, 13 and a half rebounds, 10 assists. Like, that's insane. But the Kings they got to capitalize in those minutes. Hopefully bring a lead late into the fourth quarter. And if they can do that, or if it can be close, then it'll be interesting to see what happens, because this, like I said, Kings clutch time offense, it's been awful. Yeah, we need to see it turn around. I honestly kind of feel like the Kings just need like a go-to set that they go to late in a game, because it doesn't really feel like they have that. And it feels like they kind of start running something, and then the ball handler will just like kind of reject it and either go away from a screen or drive too early and then just back it back out. Like, it seems like we're not, feels like we're trying to run something and then we like go too early a lot of the times. And that just ends up in isolation. And for me, I think I would love to see the ball more in Monk's hands in the pick and roll. If not Monk, anybody in the pick and roll. And if you have to go ISO, then try to get it to DeMar in the post as deep as you can. Playing against the Nuggets in a clutch game, if that's where we come to, that's going to be a real test, because Jokic has the Nuggets operating at a high level in the clutch every single time. So that's going to be a real test. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. As always, shout out to the members of this channel, No Rain and Joe Mama, for the support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.